Hello, and welcome to Why This Movie. This is a podcast about our favorite movies and why we love them so much. My name is Christopher Allen Maloney. Before we do anything else, I wanted to say thank you to those of you who have been listening, especially those of you who have left reviews and told other folks about it. If you like what you're hearing, do share with your friends, family, especially movie people. If you don't like what you're hearing, share with your enemies. That's fine, as long as people are listening. If you like what you're hearing enough to leave a review, please do, and I will read it here, unless it's like especially nasty or profane. So far, that hasn't happened. We did get a 1-star review from somebody. I don't know what it is exactly. This person didn't leave like a reason why they were so deeply offended by this podcast about movies, but I'm going to read a couple of the reviews we've gotten recently. This is from Huntington Treadwell III. A hidden gem, so heartfelt and full of nostalgia. It's refreshing to hear regular people discussing regular movies they love and why. I look forward to hearing each new episode every Friday. Please keep them coming. All right, well, Huntington Treadwell III, we're going to do our best. From KW Jane. Fun, dynamic convos with interesting folk. Everyone has a favorite movie, so why not break down what draws us to these films? What makes them good, and what is it about them that strikes a chord within us? Love hearing Chris talk to these people. Also, his soothing voice, talking movies, is just what I need for my early morning commute, LOL. Thank you, KW Jane. And finally, from Rogslosa. Great stuff. Interesting content and engaging discussions. Mr. Maloney does a great job and obviously knows what he's doing. Keep it up. Thank you, Rogslosa. All right. My guest today is a return guest, our first return guest. This is Candice from the UK, and here's our interview.
The movie that I love, that I'd like to speak about, is a movie called Some Like It Hot by Billy Wilder, wrote it, directed it, starring Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, and Jack Lemmon.
Not since Scarface, so much action. Not since the Marx Brothers, so much comedy. Not since the 7-Year Itch, so much Marilyn. The best picture this year will also be the funniest.
Good night, sugar. Good night, honey.
There's one thing sure, boy never met girl like this before. You've never laughed more at sex or a picture about it.
You stay here as long as you like.
Jack may have beaten Tony to the sugar, but not for long.
You're not giving yourself a chance. Don't fight it. Relax.
Lemmon and Curtis play two friends and musicians who play in a band at a speakeasy in Chicago. After they witness a murder of some gang members, they disguise themselves as women and join an all-female musical group on its way to Miami by train. They come across Sugar Cane, played by Marilyn Monroe, at the train station. Sugar sings and plays the ukulele for the band.
Look at that. Look how she moves. That's just like Jell-O on springs. Must have some sort of built-in motor or something. I tell you, it's a whole different sex.
What are you afraid of? Nobody's asking you to have a baby. This is just to get us out of town. Once we get to Florida, we'll blow this whole setup.
Joe, this time I am not going to let you talk me into something that...
Extra, 7th floor in the North Side garage. Feared bloody aftermath. Extra.
You talked me into it. Let's go, Josephine.
Not a girl, Geraldine.
Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis's characters both become infatuated with Marilyn Monroe pretty early on. But it's Curtis, out of drag but still in disguise as a well-to-do oil tycoon, that she falls for.
Hello, my dearest darling. So good to hear your voice again.
I may throw up.
No, I didn't sleep too well, darling. To tell the truth, I never closed an eye.
I never slept better. I had the most wonderful dream. I was still on the yacht and the anchor broke loose. We drifted for days and days. You were the captain and I was the crew. I kept a lookout for icebergs. I sorted your shells and mixed your cocktails. And I wiped the steam off your glasses. And when I woke up, I wanted to swim right back to you.
Jack Lemmon's character also finds romance, or rather his feminine alter ego named Daphne does. Daphne gets engaged to a rich suitor, and they end up on his boat, still on the run at the film's end. This leads to, spoiler alert, one of the most famous dialogue exchanges in movie history.
That's good. I'm gonna level with you. We can't get married at all.
Why not?
Well, in the first place, I'm not a natural blonde.
Doesn't matter.
I smoke. I smoke all the time.
I don't care.
Well, I have a terrible past. For 3 years now, I've been living with a saxophone player.
I forgive you.
I can never have children.
We can adopt some.
But you don't understand, Osgood. I'm a man.
Well, nobody's perfect.
I was about 9 years old, and my mother loved bookshops, and she took me to a bookshop where I always gravitated towards biographies. There were the children's books and the teen romances, but then there was this huge section about famous people. So I took a wander along this section, and I came to a large book about Marilyn Monroe, and her image captivated me. The glamour, the clothes, her makeup, her femininity, and the fact that the book said she was this intelligent person who would become this other person, this persona. And I thought, how interesting. And I was 9. So I went to a drama school on a Saturday in London called Guildhall School of Music and Drama. And because I came from quite far away to go to these drama classes, my mother would be with me, and we went into Guildhall Library. And Guildhall's actually quite a famous university. So it's not just a Saturday school for drama kids. It's also world famous Guildhall School of Music and Drama, where you go after you leave school. So sort of university. They've got this huge library. And we would explore the library, being book lovers, my mother and I. And I found a video. Remember the VHS videos? And I said, "Oh, Mama, I've read about this film called Some Like It Hot." And she said, "Oh, yeah, it's meant to be a classic." I said, "Can we bring it home and watch it tonight?" So we did. And the whole drag aspect has always interested me. I always loved a pantomime dame. So in the UK, obviously, pantomime is a huge thing. And boys dressing up as girls, I've always found quite a funny concept anyway. And exploring sort of masculine becoming feminine. And Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon just are experts at this, and it was genuinely funny to see them become women and have to fake being women to save their own skin.
Film historians seem to love when men dress up as women, because this movie is usually, if it's not number 1 of best movie comedies ever, it's usually very high up on the list. Like the American Film Institute says it's the best comedy of all time. And then there are several other, in Roger Ebert's first book of great movies, Some Like It Hot is on there. Like it's very much revered, even though it's kind of a silly premise.
But somehow they make it believable. The fact that you can see that they're not they're built like men, and there are these masculine elements to that they're desperately trying to cover up, like when Marilyn snuggles up to them in bed because she's cold, and they're desperately trying to be feminine but masculine at the same time. There's that juxtaposition, and she is so feminine. She's so innocent to what's going on around her, and the fact that she's always brokenhearted and used, and they become genuine allies and confidants. There's a beauty in this female friendship. I fell in love with Marilyn Monroe before I saw the film, but having seen her and know a bit about her background and what she was going through when the film was being made the film more poignant, because she gave it, you could see she gave it her all, considering she was going through such a terrible time in her personal life. She desperately wanted a baby, and she'd had miscarriages before the making of the film throughout her life. And finally, she'd passed the 3-month mark. So she was into her second trimester with Arthur Miller's baby. She agreed to do this film because she really wanted to work with Billy Wilder again. She'd worked with him on The 7-Year Itch. They'd had a good experience, or she had. I think that he found her difficult to work with from The 7-Year Itch, but she was in a very bad place when she came to making Some Like It Hot. She had a baby bump that she was trying to hide, and probably was burning the candle at both ends, working very, very long days. When you have a history of miscarriages, she needed to rest, and she didn't let the body rest. When she ever did a film, she was on high anxiety. She always felt every take could be better. She was a perfectionist. She knew how good she could be, and she wanted it perfect. So she put herself under a lot of pressure, and sadly lost the baby halfway through the film.
Oh, I see. So, because of what she was putting herself through during the making of The 7-Year Itch?
That's right. Yeah.
Who was, I know she was, like, a lot of, it gets overlooked what a gifted actor she actually was, and how she was like a member of the Actors Studio. Was it Lee Strasberg that she worked with?
That's right. She learned the method. So the method came from Stanislavski, and Lee Strasberg obviously set up the Actors Studio, and she was desperate to be taken seriously. So she actually found a community of people that did take her seriously, no matter what she looked like, the curves, the beauty. She stripped all that back. She would go in there with no makeup, and she would fully commit to 3 tall women, or any part that was very serious, heavy roles that were put in front of her. And so she was sick of the dumb blonde gig because she was so good at it. She got cast and recast, and she was desperate to do something really meaty. She then thought, well, I'm going to take some time out for motherhood. And then Some Like It Hot came up for her, and she just loves Billy Wilder, and she said, I can't turn this down. The marriage was somewhat on the rocks anyway, because of the pressure that the miscarriages had put on her, on the marriage. So there was an element of hormonal changes, depression, anxiety. Arthur Miller wasn't with her during the making of the film, and after she had the miscarriage, she then started an affair, or it may have been a one-night stand. Stories vary, with Tony Curtis, who then turned on her and led to the kissing Hitler comment. Kissing Marilyn was like kissing Hitler. They had some love scenes together. By this point, they'd fallen out. She wasn't coping mentally and coming to the set very late in the day. So they'd be in full makeup from 6 a.m. and there would be no sign of Marilyn by 11 or 12. And this caused very bad feeling. So there was all this drama going on behind the scenes, and yet the performances are so on point.
When you watched it for the first time, was that also your mom's first time seeing it?
I think so. She wasn't big on movies. So she knew my love of Marilyn, and she wanted to see what I saw. Why was I so fascinated by this woman? And she was very, very funny in herself, my mother. Great sense of humor. So watching it, I knew if it could make her laugh, it was genuinely funny. And then Marilyn's femininity, I fell in love with that. And I thought that's what I would like to be. I didn't see that she was a dumb blonde and nobody took her seriously. I saw a vulnerable adult with a heart full of love, who was just running around and just wanted acceptance and love from her girlfriends or from the men that she met, who she unfortunately would fall in love with and leave the toothpaste all squeezed out in her sink. And it was always saxophone players that she fell for. She had a type. And so this vulnerability of Sugar Cane, I thought was lovely.
It's funny. So it made your mom laugh. Something I've noticed is that you always remember, like if you watch a film with your parents, you always remember the parts that make them laugh. I remember things that made my parents laugh from when I was a very little kid.
And what were they? What used to make your parents laugh?
So I remember my dad laughing at Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. There's a very specific part where there's like a booby trap set near the beginning, and there's like a little arrow with a suction cup at the end.
Hold it, Dad. Don't move.
Ron, what are you doing?
Defending the backyard, Dad.
That's my fishing rod.
Dad, stop! Oh. Dad!
Am I bleeding?
Honey, it's rubber. Dad, I told you not to move.
What's on this thing?
Super glue.
That really did him in. He enjoyed that. And I notice now that if I watch a movie with my kids that I've seen before with them, if it's made me laugh previously,
they remember it.
They remember, and they wait for me to laugh at the same part. And if I don't, they ask me why. Why'd you find that funny last year and you don't find it funny this year? I don't know why that is, but there are specific things that it does seem that what makes our parents laugh, somehow it's like part of our ongoing investigation into who they are as people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
How often do you watch this movie? Or like, how many times do you think you've seen it throughout the course of your life?
At least 25 to 30. As a teenager, I was very much influenced by how she moved and how I love Marilyn Monroe generally, but there was no film that came close to that perfect Marilyn that there was in Some Like It Hot. That balance of vulnerability and a heart full of love. And when she doesn't actually want a millionaire, it helps that she thinks he's a millionaire, but she wants love. And in the end, when he says, "Look, I don't have any money. I'm just a saxophone player like the rest of them. I'm just your type," and she doesn't care because she's fallen in love with him.
So Marilyn Monroe has been portrayed many different times. Do you keep up with those things? I mean, do you want to see other people trying to play her?
Always.
Mm-hmm.
As an actress myself, who started to write a play called Victim about the final weeks of Marilyn's life, I felt like she's a friend, and I wanted to uncover what I think really happened, but I wanted to shed some light on some of the facts that some people don't think about when they think about Marilyn Monroe. She loved children, and she would often go to playground to watch children play because she longed for children herself, and she felt robbed not being able to have any children. So she said, if you want to be a good actress, watch children and their innocence and adopt that, because we're all the children inside. So I had this very clear vision of how I'd like to portray her. And the first scene of the play that I wrote was she has her back to the audience on a bench with a headscarf on, hiding all that hair, and all you can see is like a tiny little shot of blonde hair coming out of a headscarf. And she's watching the children play. Now, we couldn't have children on stage, but having children's voices in the background, because I think it was something that she was haunted by. And then the following days, the week leading up to her death, there was a lot happened in that week that I don't think has been explored in documentaries and books, but not so much in a play or in a film. So I'd like to see that made, or that happen, and whether I write it or somebody else writes it, I would like there to be a deep dive into what actually happened to her. My father wasn't around when I was very little, and that was something else we had in common. This need for love and reassurance, I got that. And through watching Marilyn and how the world loved her, I realized through embracing my femininity, how wonderful and liberating that was.
And it all started seeing her play like a dumb blonde character.
But the joke was, she was never a dumb blonde.
Right.
I love that.
I guess you couldn't really play one if you actually were one.
No. You have to be able to portray that. I don't know that it's dumb. She was innocent. And I think the lines can get blurred, but she had an innocence, a childlike innocence about her. And she kept getting used by the wrong men. If that makes her stupid, well, she calls herself dumb. But I see her as in the film, she was a good friend. She was one of the girls. She was talented. I think she called herself dumb, but I'm not sure if that character was as dumb as she made out. We can all be a fool for people when our heart is full of love and being vulnerable. But I think the two are just misconstrued sometimes.
Billy Wilder is kind of, his reputation is somebody who was very cynical. Do you see that in this movie? Because for me, I think I see the opposite.
There's a little bit of cynicism there. I can see that. That makes sense as you're saying that. And the fact that in the end of the movie, he rips the wig off and he says, "I'm a guy." And the millionaire says, "Well, nobody's perfect." So there was he didn't care. He just liked him. Is that cynical? I don't know.
Thank you so much for listening to Why This Movie. If you would like to come on and talk about your favorite movie, you can email me at christopherallenmaloney@gmail.com, and we will set up a time to talk.